First of all, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to view this webinar. Hope you got some good information out of it. I have to say that right, wrong, or indifferent, there's a lot of information to be had, and sometimes it takes more than one viewing to actually pick and choose all the little nuggets of information that are in there. My name is Jason Spangler. I'm the flooring division manager here at Wagner. I'm responsible for both the Rapid RH concrete moisture meters and the MMC line of wood moisture meters for testing wood substrate and finished wood products. We're going to do a Q&A session here, so if it ends up that for some reason we don't get to your question or you think of a question later on, please don't hesitate to call me directly. My phone number is 800-634-9961, and my direct extension is 235. So what I would ask is that if you have any questions, please type them in. And again, if for some reason we don't get to them or you think of them after the fact, please definitely give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to try to help you the best I can. So the first question that I have here is from George. It says, what effect do bond breakers used in concrete tilt-up construction which seal the surface affect the RH numbers? And will a sealer protect the finished product? Well, if we talk about the finished product, that one I can't completely answer. I would say any kind of bond breakers that you have on there is going to be some kind of what I would classify an artificial byproduct on the surface of the concrete, and it'd be some kind of situation where you'd want to do as part of your preparation, you would obviously want to take that off. That being said, if the bond breaker does in fact seal the surface, you think about the science behind what Howard just shared with you, which is the science behind the relative humidity, is that as the concrete's drying, it has less moisture on the top, more moisture on the bottom, and it's been proven that that 40% depth is really the amount of moisture that's going to equalize from top to bottom throughout the slab. So in effect, what you're saying is that when the slab is open, that 40% reading that you get is going to be the same thing that you would have on the surface once you put a finished floor product. In essence, 40% without floor covering or 40% with floor covering, or a sealing, if you will, of the surface of the concrete, effectively would be the same measurement. So the nice thing about it is, whether it's a situation where you would take the test prior to or after flooring installation, that 40% number should remain fairly consistent. Again, all things being equal, you don't have some kind of ingress of water coming in or something along those lines. Along the same lines of what you asked there, George, is the fact that if you have a flooring failure or an issue with a floor, I have a lot of people that will call me and they'll ask me, do I need to pull the floor up or a section of the floor up in order to actually drill through drill into the concrete to get a moisture measurement to find out if the relative humidity in the concrete is in excess of where it should be? Answer is no. You can actually just drill right through the finished floor product that's on there. Obviously, depending on the thickness of that finished floor product, you need to compensate for your 40% calculation. Make sure you take the flooring thickness into account, but you can just drill right through the flooring and into the concrete, because the science says that 40% depth, whether it has flooring on it or doesn't have flooring on it, should be fairly consistent. One of the questions I get a lot talks about, or people will ask me about concrete, the actual thickness of the slab. How do I calculate that in respect to trying to get my 40% depth? One thing I can say is that it's surprising once your brain is tuned into having to know the thickness of the slab, how many different ways there are to see that. Obviously, construction documents. If you look at any kind of renovation or rehab work, there's a lot of times when they're actually doing some trenching to move plumbing, to move bathrooms, things along those lines. So you could see it prior to them backfilling all of that. sometimes from the outside, depending on what the construction is, if it's new construction. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to see that. Now, with that being said, I have people in the field now that are doing things, if push comes to shove and you have to know, obviously, the thickness of that slab, they'll drill a couple of pilot holes, smaller diameter, in the slab all the way through, and they'll take a piece of pliable wire and actually make a J-hook out of it that's just a little bit bigger than what the diameter of the hole is, so that when they push it into the hole, it'll close it up a little bit. It's got a little bit of spring against it. When it gets down all the way through the bottom, that J-hook will pop out so that when you pull it up, it's got resistance to the bottom of the slab. You can sit there, and when you have that resistance, take a Sharpie, mark it off. You can pull it out, see where the actual radius is in the J compared to the Sharpie. It gives you an idea of what the thickness is, or a lot better idea. And again, I'm not saying that you take a slab and turn it into Swiss cheese. A lot of times people will use reference points on either side of the building or something like that, just to make sure that the consistency is, is there. Again, you've done due diligence at that point, and that's what I'm seeing that people will do out in the market right now. Sometimes you'll see situations where people will ask me, well, what is the tolerance on the 40%? Again, it is a critical depth specific measurement. That 40%, or that the tolerance for it, the way it's written right now, they don't have a tolerance in there. Now, I can tell you that they are very soon trying to vote in a tolerance in there, but even at that, the tolerance that they're looking at is only going to be like 1/8 of an inch, and it would give you 1/8 of an inch too deep. They definitely don't want you to be any shallower than 40%. So that's not on the books yet, but that seems to be what is a fairly common, acceptable number, if you will. The other thing I hear people ask questions about has to do with elevated slabs, especially in pan decking. One of the things that we, as a company, we have to make recommendations on this because, again, the ASTM standard does not have anything in black and white to guide this. So what we recommend is to identify the deepest sections of the slab. So if you have, say, a 3.5 inch on the high and say a 6.5 in the deepest section, we want you to identify that deepest section. So the next question then leads to, well, how do I do that? Very easily, if you go out and buy a metal detector that works much like a stud finder for a wood, like a wall, to find studs, you can get a fairly inexpensive metal detector, Home Depot, Lowe's, anything like that, and they're about, I'll say, under $100. I know that I picked one up for about $75. It's a Bosch product, and in essence, what it does is you put it on the surface of the concrete, and the electronics in it is strong enough that it will actually go into the concrete and pick up the high point of the concrete, but it's not so strong that it actually picks up the low section. So you can take it across the surface, scan, picks up the high spot, mark that, move over a little bit, picks up the high spot, and then in between those two spots is your thickest area. Now, that being said, that's another one of the things that the ASTM committee is really looking at, is trying to give more specific guidance so it makes it easier for people to follow the standard to the best of their ability. So hopefully we'll see some resolution to that one also. All right, well, it doesn't look like I have any other questions. With that being said, again, my name is Jason Spangler. Phone number is 800-634-9961, and my direct extension is 235. If there's anything that we can do for you, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thanks, and have a great day.